Attention! The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the entirety of the National Hockey League. Please stay tuned for further information from the Storm Cellar.
Welcome back to the Storm Cellar. Brad and Ray are here. Ray, for the second week in a row, our guest is canceled. So it's just me and you, which is, I don't know, it's kind of nice. I mean,
it is nice. I'll say that it's unfortunate because we always want to focus on the other Caniacs that are out there. And just, life happens, right? There's so many things that keep us on the go, and how you juggle and stuff like that. Can't always make a trip into the Storm Cellar. Yeah, 100%. Always family first. That's how you and I roll, so it's easy to understand. And but we've got lots to talk about, and we'll be keeping everyone entertained, we hope. There's lots to talk about over the last few days and what's coming ahead, and you've been crunching some serious numbers, and you are the numbers guy here in the Storm Cellar, and you reinforced a parallel that I had wrote about. So it's very interesting, and we should probably get into it, shouldn't we?
Yeah, let's start by let's acknowledge some good stuff here, right? Because we're going to talk about, it's not bad, it's just honest. 5 years in a row making the playoffs.
Nice. Yeah.
Potentially a third straight division title.
Mm-hmm.
The team, the fan base is on the upswing. I mean,
yes.
I know some of the season ticket holders weren't happy with the way they're redoing season ticket allotments for people who don't have full, 44 game plans, because they include preseason and stuff in there.
Oh, wow.
And I feel bad for those folks, but it's a good problem to have, especially after a 9-year drought. So in general, things have gotten a lot better in, you can call it the Tom, Dundon era. You can call it the Rod Brindamore era, whatever you want to call it. Things are on the upswing. The team is in good shape. We're in good shape for a minimum of another year.
Yep.
Then you start worrying about contracts and extensions. But Don Waddell seems to find the right guys. And that's a big part of this, right? Keeping this window open as long as you can. Because you don't know about things, right? Svechnikov gets hurt.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, I'm already gnashing teeth just at the thought of the contract situation that we're going to, you know what I'm saying? Like they'll, I want to keep that
be ugly.
Focus on the immediate, so I don't have to think about that, because man, oh man, it's
going to depend on the cap going up. And I was happy to be wrong in that the NHL's TV deal is less important than gate revenue.
Right.
So if Bally Sports, that's a bankruptcy issue. Warner Brothers, bankruptcy issue, or rather just get out of sports.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't impact the league as much as it would other sports. But it is going to impact the league, which means it's going to impact revenue, which means it's going to impact the salary cap. Maybe not as bad as I thought, which is good. But this team, to put a spin on it for folks who are a little newer, Ray and I talk a lot about 2000, the early 2000s, 2002, 2006, 97 even, and the parallels and the things that we remember, because it was just such a fun time.
It was.
And this season parallels that season in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest difference might be this year with Svetch getting hurt after the trade deadline. You didn't have a chance to go out and pick up that guy
to do anything. Yeah.
But for those who were around in 2006, the end of our season was terrible. I mean, I don't have it in front of me. I'm going to look it up here in a minute, but it was not pretty. As I recall, we beat some teams that it should have been close, and I think we lost to some teams that we should have beat.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a game of pinball, win, loss, win, loss, loss, win, loss. And that's just how the end of the season rolled, right?
Yeah, there was no, and I looked it up when I wrote the little post that I did there, which if you want to take a look, you can. There was no streak at all. really going in. You want everyone, like every team desires to have to be firing on all cylinders, you know, every cliche that you can think of, right? Going in on a streak because it generates excitement and confidence and all of the things that you need for the playoffs. And they couldn't get anything going. There was really no streak at all. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And you hit the nail on the head. Games that should be won, lost. And that was where the frustrating part came from, right? You were like, man, why can't we win that game? Then they go out and play a tight game against a really good team and win the game. And you go, okay, well, that restores confidence a little bit, right? Like we're still all right. So it just kept going back and forth. And it's from one end of the spectrum to the other. You know what I mean? When you lose games that you know you should win, Detroit, it drives you nuts. It drives you nuts. But then when you go out and beat a team that you're, in tough with, you all of a sudden get that confidence back. So I'm holding on to that parallel in that sense, as far as the way the team went into the playoffs. I still have lots of concerns. I have concerns about, who we're going to end up playing. I have concerns about, there's a lot of concerns.
Yeah. And I looked it up. So starting with, I just randomly picked March 16th.
Sure.
As, middle of March. Win, loss, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, draw, or actually OT loss, win.
Yeah.
I mean, does that sound familiar?
It sounds ridiculously familiar, and therefore, no one really needs to push the panic button. We're gonna be okay. This team, it's funny. We're talking about getting ready for the playoffs. I would suggest to you that the style of play that this team has is playoff style right from the beginning of October.
Mm-hmm.
They just play a different game. They play that hard forechecking, on top of people, pressure. This is the type of hockey that you see in the playoffs. They've been doing it for a long time.
And just to keep throwing out the parallels, Peter Laviolette, coach in 2006, played an up-tempo, in-your-face type of hockey.
Yep.
Totally different than what the Canes had played previous to that under Coach Paul Maurice. And so I wonder if, to continue that parallel, Laviolette didn't last in Carolina very long. And part of that's because he demands a lot of his players. Mm-hmm. It's an up-tempo, hard style, right? There's a lot of work involved.
Yep.
And if you're not winning, players are going to tune you out quickly. Rod plays a very similar style. We know about not playing zone on defense. We know about the forechecking. It's not the old style dump and chase. It is dumping and chase with a purpose. And if you watch, they win most of those battles in the corner, and that's work.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is Rod's winning. But is that why we see some of this? It's almost like lethargy, right? We get to the end of the season, and I looked up the numbers. Let's go back here. In 2023, overall for the season, a 700 win percentage. 2002 was better, 707. And 2021 was even better, 714.
Yep.
But starting in March of those seasons, it drops to 558, 588. Now, 2021 was still pretty good, right? They went 11-3-2 to end the season in 2021, which was not so different than 10-6-2 in 2006.
Yeah.
But there's clearly a pattern here that when they get to March, something changes. They're not winning at the same clip. Is that because of how difficult it is to play Rod style hockey? And if that is that in some way impacting our performance in the playoffs? We've seen the scoring drought at least the last 3 years. And it's concerning because if it is in fact Rod's style of play, then I don't think Rod's going to make any serious changes to the way that he wants the team to play, which means does this continue? Or the question becomes, how do you get around that, right? If you know, the legs feed the wolf, right? If the guys are starting to slow down in March and April, what can you do as, you know, what can Rod do to combat that? He's, you know, we mentioned the, you know, the Rod Blindemore episode last week. He's known for switching up lines and trying to shake things loose. And it works more often probably than it should. But is that going to catch up to you? Because now we're talking, you know, 2.5 more weeks and we're into the playoffs. So they're just looking at the numbers. There's something about the way Rod has them playing that it feels like they just start to run out of gas. And if you look at them, a lot of the comments I saw on social media the other night, especially at the Detroit game, where, you know, they just can't finish. Like they're, you know, the effort is there, but, and then if you look back a couple of games before that, it was more of the lethargic. Like they look disinterested. They're not playing hard. It's hard to do that for 82 games in a row.
Yeah.
An 82-game season. But is some of that the physical toll that Rod's style puts on a team? Because, you know, is it possible to let up some and, you know, early in the season and then step on the gas later on and save that energy? But by the same token, I remember the years when like the last day of the season is when we're like, you know, hey, winning in, or, you know, win and hope somebody loses. It's nice to be in the middle of March going, we're making the playoffs. You know, it's not a sure thing, but it's a 99.99999% thing.
Yeah.
Which is nice. And he could rest up, but then you can't really rest because you don't want to play the Rangers in the first round over the Islanders.
Right.
I don't.
No.
So I don't know what the solution is. It's kind of another one of those good problems to have. And I don't know.
You're right. It is a good problem to have. I would say that we're not as fans. We are not as focused on how we're going to end up the season in the regular season. We're now more focused on our success in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Instead of just getting in, now we're looking and expecting more. You know what I mean? So that's a good situation for fans. We know we have the talent. We know there's going to be playoff hockey, which is always exciting, and a chance to a chance to get our foot in the door to lift Lord Stanley. So that is a good thing. Brad, I haven't seen it specifically, but I wonder if it's there and I just not noticing it. If there is purposeful easing off in the game. And for the very reason that you gave, which is I cannot imagine the exhaustion it would put on the body, on the mind, playing that full throttle, relentless, forechecking, man-to-man everything for the whole season, and then be able to turn it up a notch even further, which you have to do in the playoffs. Like, do you think that they ease off in March because they know they're going to have to turn the volume up to 11 when the playoff starts?
I don't. It doesn't feel like it. Like if you look at Rod and see how intense Rod is, like Rod was furious the other day.
Yeah,
about the the referee situation and all. So I don't feel like that's a Rod Brind'Amour thing to do. But he's a pretty even keeled guy too, right? He doesn't get too upset about losses. He doesn't get too overly excited about wins. So for me, it's hard to kind of say. It's how much rest can you really give these guys this time of year? You know what I mean? Like you can not play hard, but in some ways that's even worse Because if you're out there giving 75%, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to play a Montreal who doesn't like you, Detroit who been a Canes killer for the last several years,
Isn't that the truth?
if they're giving you 100%, in my mind, you're just setting yourself up, for being more injury prone, for bad things to happen, because you're kind of going through the motions and they're playing. That's a great way to get hurt, in my mind. So,
I'm trying to figure it out. It just does not make sense. The month of March, right? What is that? Is that a thing? The Ides of March. What is that again?
Yeah, the Ides of March.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it other than, games like last night against the team that shall not be named. It was refreshing to see the completeness of the victory. Now, it wasn't a different type of domination. They didn't run up the score. It was only a 3-0 win. But there was in no point in the game ever where the Hurricanes weren't dominating the play. There were jokes made during the game that the Zamboni was able to save time and energy by only cleaning the one side of the ice. And that was the side of the ice, Carolina's offensive zone. They just completely dominated everything. 50 shots to 14. I mean, that's just, and you could see the jump in the skating. The puck goes into the corner. The race was on, and the guys were after it. They bought it wholeheartedly. They just drove that team into it was just a complete domination. And that's the kind of play that is going to have to succeed when you go into the playoffs. And there's some big games coming up positionally as well. We need to hold on to that top spot. There is that, and therein lies the real concern. Yeah, we've made it into the playoffs, so there's nothing to worry about. And we're going to be facing whoever. You got to, win 16 games and all those other, all those other sayings and stuff. But they're really, I don't even. It's got me confounded. It's got me confounded.
And there are easier and tougher ways to get to those 16 wins.
Yeah.
Tonight, knock on wood, should be a preview of round 1 for us, Canes Isles.
Yes.
Rather than Canes Rangers, which we don't want.
And the Islanders are playing. The Islanders are playing well, and they're getting great goaltending. They've really kind of solidified their spot as far as the wild card race is pretty crazy right now. There's still lots of team, they're flipping back and forth. I think the Penguins are out as of right now. They are.
I think they're wild card 2.
Are they still wild card 2?
I lied. Florida overtook them last night.
Yeah, because of last night, and the Penguins. They got blown out, didn't they? I was trying to see. No. They lost to Boston 4-3. Yeah, Pasternak with that goal with like 3 minutes left. Not 3 seconds.
But Pittsburgh has the game in hand, right? They're a point behind the game in hand. But Pittsburgh, Florida, and the Islanders are 3 points apart. So, that could still go anyway. I think Buffalo is just not quite going to make it.
No.
So I think it's a 3-way race. We do know that Tampa Bay is playing Toronto, right?
Yeah.
That's been guaranteed now.
That's since, I don't know, October 1st.
And to step back half a step to something you just said, is it about confidence in some ways? Because Ront has played exceptional his last 10 games. I don't think he has a loss in his last 10. Now, if you look at the opponents, it's Montreal like 3 times, it's Arizona, it's Detroit. I think they're he's not getting you wins against the Rangers and the Bruins and stuff lately because he hasn't played them.
Right.
But the team, the last few times he's been out there, and he's been injured, so he's been out a little bit, but it feels like that's the guy they have the team has the most confidence in, and they seem to play that way in front of him right now. So
it is unique to see how different the style of play is, or not the style of play. Style of play is the same, but there's an air about it, an aura. The guys feel good knowing that Father Finn is back there. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. To put you on the spot, if tonight is game 1 versus the Islanders, game 1 of the playoffs, ignore having played last night, who's your starter?
I think it has to be Raanta.
I do too. And
doesn't it?
I'm a little surprised with, particularly thinking through last year, the entire season, and how, they were a good pair, but oh my gosh, Anderson was just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it's the injuries. I don't know if it's age. His knock in Toronto was that he couldn't get it done in the playoffs, which that's a Toronto thing. That's not an Anderson thing, regardless of how bad Leafs want to blame somebody. But I think Raanta's earned it. I think Raanta's your top dog right now. The only thing that I hope for is if Rod kind of puts it out there that Raanta maybe is the guy, does that push Anderson in a good way to get to play better? Because Henderson is an enigma right now. He's making 10 Bell saves.
Yeah.
And then the easy ones are just like coasting through the 5-hole or coasting beside. Just
like short side goals. Yeah, the soft ones.
Like the easy ones you're letting through, and then you're coming up and getting these like crazy rebound deflections and all, and you're stopping those. And I don't understand, man.
Yeah, he's got no business making some of those saves. Like none. Guaranteed goals that he is stopping magically somehow. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a guy skates up on the left wing and just fires one on net because, take our chances, and it's in the net.
2 seconds to go. And you know what the difference there is? You know what really made me mad? And you can probably tell I'm irritated by how excited I get. There was less than 10 seconds left. The Canes make a change for whatever ridiculous reason they came up with. I don't know why you change.
Yeah.
The Canes, in my opinion, by taking that change, said, "Oh, we're going to overtime."
Yeah.
And the Wings said, "There's 10 seconds left to play in this game."
Mm-hmm.
And you lost because the Wings played to win.
Yeah. And
that's one of the issues that the Hurricanes have sometimes is it's not even, when we say finishing, it's not even just about scoring goals, right? It's not, goodness gracious, Jesse Puljujarvi and his line are just dominant. The CF percent for them is just, oh my gosh, it's in the 90s. Like how are they not scoring goals constantly? And they're just not. So that's one type of finish. But when the Detroit Red Wings are playing to end the game with 10 seconds to go, why aren't you? On what planet do you not try and win that game? I do not understand why you would make that change. And somebody pointed out, and at first I disagreed, and then when I rewatched, I said, yep, Detroit had too many men on the ice. Somebody jumped on early. He's the guy who got down, got to the puck, got it across the ice for the goal. But number one, if you don't change, that doesn't happen, for one.
Yeah.
And number two, I'm one of those folks who I'm like, why was that even an option for them? It's Detroit. Like, they should have been up by 2 or 3 goals.
Yeah.
That's
a game that should have been in hand.
The Hurricanes are, if I'm a backup goaltender, I'm a third goaltender, I am a starter, but maybe I'm not a high-end starter. I'm on a lower team, and I'm good, but I'm not great. I want to play the Hurricanes as much as possible in my contract year. Because I wonder how many millions of dollars guys have gotten added to their contracts because they just shut us down, and I don't get it.
It's a good point. We've had a way of making the we've had a way of making the backups look amazing. Look, you know, like Vezina Trophy candidates. It's been crazy. Um, yeah, you know what? This whole the whole thing about with the changes, the finessing of the lineup. We talked about it last weekend, where Rod is trying to find the lines that have a little of everything on each line. They have where they have scoring potential, but they also have grinders because they're playing the same style throughout. And it's it was interesting last night's contest. Uh, seeing Jarvis on the fourth line. Seeing Jarvis on the fourth line was strange, I would
But
say,
effective.
but it was effective. 100%. He had a number of opportunities, and he is snake bit right now. I don't know if he's gripping the stick too tight or just what. Uh, the opportunity, he's had some glorious opportunities that have just, for whatever reason, insane save or whatever, he just hasn't been able to finish. In fact, the only person that really has amongst the forward is Fishy himself. Aho is the guy that is scoring if we're scoring. I love the contest that
Mhm.
the I love the contest that the Hurricanes have going on Twitter. Before every game day, they'll throw out that little picture and say, who you got scoring the first goal, and you get a chance to win something if you select correctly, right? Why anyone of the Caniacs and jerks out there would select anyone other than one of the defensemen is beyond me. I mean, the odds are
Mhm.
much greater. It's 1 in 6. You got a 1 in 6 chance of getting it right rather than the 1 in 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To see
Oh,
who's going to score, because there it was again. Everything is coming from the defense, and yes, it's great, but it's also quite alarming that we just cannot get our forwards going and scoring.
Mhm.
Um,
But on the flip side of that, just to play devil's advocate, because we're trying to look for the bright spots.
yeah,
If the forwards get going in the playoffs, you become wicked dangerous. Like now you're a cup contender again. You know what I mean?
yep,
Because like you said, the defense is having a record year. I think they're 1 or 2 goals away now from having, the most goals by defensive corps in team history. It's
well, I think they've already succeeded
Did
that.
they maybe they did it the other night. I've been looking at record, but I've been looking at and thinking about the issue of goal scoring for a while. I've been going through hockeyreference.com, hockey-reference.com,
Right.
and this team is built to not have a true superstar, right? It's supposed to be interchangeable cogs. Everybody knows their role. That's why Rod can roll 4 lines, and those 4 lines can include Jarvis on the fourth and Martinic on the first.
Yep.
And I wonder if that needs to change in some way. At some point, do you have to bring in somebody who just puts goals in the net? And I feel like Don is leading that way, which is why he brought in Pacioretty. It's why I think we'll have Pacioretty back next year. But if you look at and we're now at a point where the Hurricanes have been the Hurricanes longer than the Whalers have been the Whalers. Okay. Over
Wow.
50% of the franchise is now Canes history.
Yep.
In the top 10 goal scorers, any idea who, in terms of goals in a season, any idea how many of those people were Hurricanes and not Whalers?
In
I
the
know
top 10,
yeah. So top 10 goal leaders in a season.
uh, I'm going to say I don't I don't think any are in the top 10. Now, it was a different style of game in the 80s. Uh, there were way, way, way more goals. And, there was some really talented goal scorers for the Whalers, especially early. I'm going to say 0.
Almost. Eric Stahl in 2006 netted 45 goals.
There you go. That's right.
So in terms of the Hurricanes franchise, you've never had a 50-goal scorer, which is not, I mean, that's,
50 goal scorers are like unicorns.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say that's not terrible, but it's Eric Stahl. And I think Aho hit that one time, maybe. I think he's probably in the top 20 in points leaders. Do you think a Hurricane has ever hit 100 points in this season? I'll give you a hint. If you score a lot of goals, you probably get a lot of points.
Yeah. I mean, was it Stahl again?
Eric Stahl hit 100 on the nose in 2006. I remember being elated about that because it had never happened, since they had become the Hurricanes, which was cool.
Yeah.
But I've been going through the numbers and looking at, my gosh, and you're right. The 80s, especially early 80s and 90s was a different time, right?
It was.
But you had Kevin Dineen, right? Hit 20 power play goals in the season.
Jeez.
Rod Brindamore hit 19 power play goals.
Yeah.
In 2006. Eric Stahl hit 19 power play goals in 2006. Jeff O'Neill got 17 power play goals in 2001. And the reason I've been looking through these numbers, because I'm trying to figure out is, will a true goal scorer, is that the answer, or do we need to do like a full lift, right? Do we just have to get better across the board? I don't know how you can. I think you need to bring in somebody who can score 40 goals. This team with a Pasternak on it now, granted, like I said, like we're talking like the best of the best here. But does anybody, including obviously he wouldn't be on the Bruins this year if he was on the Canes, but you would be the Bruins this year.
Oh,
we wouldn't have any of these discussions. So can Max be that guy? Can Max stay healthy for a whole season and net 40 goals? Because if you can do that, my gosh, we're so balanced now that it's good and bad, right? Because normally you have the superstar. If the superstar guy is not scoring goals, other guys have to fill in. That happens.
Yeah.
We don't have that one guy to turn to, other than Aho, who's, to be fair, he can put some goals in there.
Sorry, it had to be done.
No, absolutely. The big problem for the Hurricanes is if you think of it like, I don't know, an oil field, and you got 20 derricks out there drilling for oil. If one or two of those wells goes dry, it's fine. You got 18 other wells.
Yep.
But what happens when 16 of those wells go dry at the same time?
Yeah.
And the only wells that are going are Aho, Burns, and and Shea.
Shea. How dangerous is it that you when you point out the actual threats, when you think of your goal scoring threats, that two of them are defenders?
Honestly, maybe I'll put this on Twitter. If I say who are the Canes goal scoring threats, give me 3. Can anybody give me 2 forwards right now?
We know what they should. We know there should be.
Yeah,
but are there?
People might say Natchez, but is Natchez a goal scoring threat in the last 2 weeks?
I've said this over and over again. You cannot carry. He's fast. He's quick. He can stick handle. But dude, you cannot skate through the entire team on your own. You end up giving up the puck at the blue line, and then they're going the opposite direction. So, dude, please stop that. Also, stop the button hook at the half wall. Okay? Every single time. I have seen him, you and I have seen him, where he's had the speed to blow past guys and go for wraparounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about you do that? Because everyone knows you're doing the button hook at the half wall to try to find someone, and they're focused on it. Use your speed.
Yeah,
Martine, use your speed. And that's easy for me to say. I'm not the one out there going up against a 6'3" skater who's ready to, fill me in on the boards, right? Like it's easy for me to say. It's very hard to do, but he's got that in him. He can do that, switch things up and get her going, because Necas is he's kind of disappeared a little bit.
Which along with everybody else, right?
Along with everyone else. It's fair. Like, it shouldn't be zoning in.
Right.
On
he got goals on March 1st and 2nd.
Yeah.
And otherwise, he had 2 goals for the rest of the month of March. He's the guy who's got to score, especially with Svechnikov out. Like, and how bad is Svechnikov being out affecting Necas? But I agree with you. I said the other night that, one of these days when I learn how to play guitar, I'm going to name my band One Too Many. And and it was one of those times that I feel like it might have been Necas going behind the goal, and he passes out to the front to a man who's covered by 2 defenders.
Yeah.
I'm like, take the wraparound.
Yeah.
Odds are you're probably not going to stuff it in there, but at least then you get a draw in their zone. And we have some of the best face-off guys around.
Yes.
Versus throwing it out front, the defenseman snags it and just puts it out of the zone.
Yep.
I would like to see Necas's confidence feels like it's back in general, right? And it's going to waver some here and there, and especially now it's going to affect him. I would like to see Necas become the Letterkenny hockey guys, right? I've said it before. Selfish hockey. You kind of mentioned the opposite, or the what he shouldn't do that a few minutes ago, but maybe that's what he needs to do. End to end. Hey, the wingman's guy's going to be there when he catches up.
Yeah.
2.5, 3-minute shifts, no problem. Like, Necas, like, if you're in, especially if you're skating between guys, just pretend it's Halloween, pretend you're McDavid, and shoot the puck. See what happens.
Yeah.
Don't pass. Just shoot the puck.
There and look, even Fishy himself, I've yelled at him through the TV 2 or 3 times in the last, a few more than 2 or 3 times in the last 2 weeks to shoot, because he's in a position to fire the puck. And he's looking to dish, right? It's hard to explain, but he's right there, and he has a great shot.
So I made an April Fool's joke last night, which I don't know if you watched Ted Lasso or not, but
I don't
folks
know
who listen to us and watch the show. Ted Lasso is the best show on TV by far. and there's an episode. So one of the characters, Ray, since you don't, and for people who don't, one of the characters, his name is Jamie Tart. And he's this phenomenal footballer, right? He scores goals. He can, he's like Necas, but like if Necas was a 50-goal scorer,
right?
But he's like the soccer equivalent. And he leaves the team for reasons, and I'm not going to go into all of it. He comes back, and they're not winning games, and they're tying games. And he's like, hey, he's talking to kind of his arch rival, and he's like, like, what's wrong with me? Like, tell me what to do to get better. And Coach Ted Lasso, is the eternal optimist, is like, hey, yeah, tell us. And, pardon my language, I'm going to, but Roy's like, you messed him up. And Ted Lasso's like, me? He's like, you made him a team player. Like, you took his, prima donna, all the things that made him a world-class athlete, and you made him a team player. That feels like every player on the Canes, like,
they are,
isn't it?
They are.
Every single one of them except for Burns is a pass first, shoot second guy.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love most, and I don't even know if people realize it consciously, one of the things people I think like about Burns is if the stick is coming to Burns, 50% of the time he's going to shoot it. Burns don't care. Burns like, I'm going to put it down and shoot it low and try and get a rebound, and maybe somebody else score. And it's like, they don't do that, and we don't get the rebounds, or we spend 45 seconds of a power play passing around the perimeter looking for the perfect shot.
Yeah.
And then when they do shoot it, right in the crest.
Yeah.
Right in the crest. I mean, sometimes plays develop too quickly. Tips and things, you can't aim so much as you're just trying to get it in an area.
Yeah.
The shots are just, you and I could make a lot of those saves against the Canes, man, because they're right on body. I mean, they're
And we're big dudes, so we cover a lot.
Yeah, we're big dudes. I mean, it's like the pictures of Vasilevsky from 3 years ago when he looked like Violet from Willy Wonka, all blown up. That would definitely be me in a blue jersey.
There you go.
I don't know.
Brad, when we and how many times have we said it over the years in our discussions and so forth, and especially when you're talking about the playoffs, is that the things that you need special teams, you need your goaltending and secondary scoring. The problem is right now we don't have any primary scoring. The primary scoring is coming from the back end with the defense.
Right.
And that is that's a really good problem to have when you've got defenders that are scoring heavy, but where is the primary scoring? And it's not there. And we're struggling with our not all special teams. Penalty kill is still great, but number 20 in the league in the power play, that's just not going to do it.
Got better, got up to the top half of the league, top 14, top 13, dropped like a rock.
And yeah, so
are we just old fogies? Meaning the defensemen are scoring.
Yeah.
If the defenseman can put up 3 goals a game, does it matter that the forwards aren't scoring? Because statistically, when the Canes score 3 or more goals, they win like 90-something% of the time. Should we care that it's not the forwards?
The reason why I say that we should is because expecting your defenders to score 3 goals does not happen every game. That's not a strategy that you can rely on. You know what I mean? Like, as good as our defenders have been, they've been putting pucks on the net, getting goals. It's been great. But you can't rely, because they have another job to do. Their other job is to keep the puck out of their net. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they have to focus on as well. So it's always been offense from your defender has always been a bonus in the league. It's always been a nice problem to have.
I'm trying to think outside the box, right? I'm trying to look at hockey in a new way because it's been so long.
Yeah.
Maybe we're looking at it wrong, Ray.
It's entirely possible.
Rod Brind'Amour has never met a defensive forward he didn't like.
No. And why? Why would you? Yeah.
Right. Kane to the Canes was never going to happen. Thank goodness, for a lot of reasons. One of which is he's terrible on defense.
Yeah, awful.
Rod Brind'Amour. Look last night. Watch the film from last night, especially not just the power play, but particularly on the power play. When you have forwards up high, cycling the puck along with a defenseman, and you have like Gostisbehere right in front of the net.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't give Rod enough credit in that maybe Rod doesn't see that he has 12 forwards and 6 defensemen and 2 goalies.
Yeah.
Maybe Rod has 18 skaters and 2 maybe Rod's playing fantasy hockey. You have 18 skaters, you have 2 goalies. Whoever gets the points, I don't care. I just need you to
just get the points.
I mean,
that's an interesting theory.
When you look at the stats, every year the defense is putting up the points. Like they're making guys who were so TA.
Yep.
Look phenomenal, who are then going and getting overpaid contracts from other teams because we know they're not worth it because they play alongside Jacob Slavin. And did they get points? They did get points.
Of course, yeah.
But did they get points because they're that good, or because Rod's system takes advantage of something that the rest of us are still being, have we fallen into what I call like the old white guy hockey trap? I've been around forever. I know the game. This is how it's done. Forward score, defenseman defend. And Rod is like, nope. Forwards score, forwards defend. Defenseman score, defenseman defend. I have 18 skaters. And the team is built in a lot of ways around that. So I didn't mean to put you on the spot because it's not you. We all are thinking the same thing. The forwards need to score. And I guess I'm starting to maybe say, okay, thinking outside the box, what does Rod think? Because we see things and the Forwards don't score and we get upset, and Rod doesn't seem to care. So as far as Rod is concerned, if you're the coach, who cares who scores? If Brent Burns is your 40 goal scorer as a defenseman at the end of the year, do you care?
No, you know what?
If you're
Probably
winning,
not. Probably not.
right?
If you're winning, you know,
Right.
you don't want an Erik Karlsson because you know what I mean. But
Yes,
I
yes,
would
I do.
say that
who's going to win a Norris Trophy, even though he has terrible defense.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eric.
How crazy is that?
I know Eric's probably a big fan of the show. Huge Caniac too. Erik Karlsson's going to win a Norris, and he is awful in defense.
No question. Yeah. Look, I think you're onto something. I think when you look at the recaps and the interviews that he does after the games and stuff, games where you and I will look at it and say, hey, they played a hell of a game there. Sometimes he comes out and says, you know what? There were issues, right? There were just things.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's times when you and I just want to bury the team. And he's like, you know what? I'm not terribly angry with the way they played the game. And and to a man, every time they talk to the players, we played our system. We played our game. And if we play our game, we know we're going to get good results.
Right.
But we have to play the game. We have to play the plan. Like we have a plan every game. We got to stay with it. Even when we're struggling, we have to stay with it. The pucks will turn. You know what I mean? Like it'll turn into our favor.
Some of it's puck luck, but you make your own luck in those situations. Right?
Yeah, you totally do.
That's why they play the system that they play is to force you into mistakes, giving them, maximum lucky opportunities. It's not really luck, it's just being really aggressive.
I've always hated that puck luck term, but it's accurate, isn't it? I've hated the term because I always thought, this is not lucky. It takes skill to do what you need to do. You know what I mean? On every aspect of the game. It's not by chance. You know what I mean? I've always hated that term, but there you go. You're right about that. Let's take a look at the games ahead this week. Before we get back, which it's Easter is coming up next Sunday, and so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 games before we are back on. Of course, tonight, the big one at home, it's the Islanders. Perhaps a look at what our first round opponent will be and bring. Sorokin. I mean, as he goes, so go the Islanders.
That's a thing in New York teams.
Yeah.
Sorokin, Shesterkin.
Yeah. The goaltenders
a little different. Maybe,
a little different.
At least those two, the two New York teams. Yeah, if the goaltender's hot, then they're probably going to win. And if he's playing off, then they don't have the firepower to overcome it.
It's going to be tough. I'd like for the team to, and the good news is, even though this is a back-to-back that is, the Canes coming off of the road trip onto home and play back-to-back, and the Islanders, who were shut out by Tampa, who's turning it up, by the way. I'll just point that out. Tampa
is prepping for Toronto.
Yeah, they sure are.
I don't like Tampa, but I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah, so we're going to be squaring off. I like the fact that the team is at home. We're hoping that the Caniacs and Jerks will raise the roof a little bit and fire them up, especially knowing that this is a very likely opponent in the playoffs. So let's give them a little taste of what it's going to be like to come to the PNC.
And real quick, good news. I forgot. I'll have to dig it up on Twitter. The Islanders got into RDU 15 minutes after the Canes did last night. So both teams got in wicked late, like 12:45, 1
Wow.
o'clock. Somebody had the
Crazy.
flight trackers up, and the two teams got into Raleigh basically the same time. So,
Did
both
they
teams,
chuck knuckles in the airport?
I don't think that's how. So, hold on. In the 80s and the 70s, that might have
Might
happened.
have happened.
But this is not. These are not the. These are not the Grim Reaper years. These are not the Rob Roy years. These are not
the slap shot years.
The All Samuelson years. Yes,
exactly. On Tuesday, the Canes are at home again against Ottawa. Ottawa is still believing that they have a chance to get into the wild card spot, and they are going to be fired up. They played a very strong game against the Leafs last night. They lost. They were blanked as well, but it was not for a lack of effort. Mm-hmm. They really, they bring it every night, and so that's. While this is a should win situation, it's going to be tough. Thursday,
I'd like to see just real quick. I'd like to see the Senators make it, but I don't think they have enough, and they have to play the Canes twice.
Yeah,
and so I hope that's 4 points that they lose. So unfortunately, I'd like to pull for you, Sens, but I can't. I would prefer to see you guys in over the Penguins, but we need those points.
And how about the Predators and another goaltender, Saros, who has confounded the Canes on many occasions in the past? He's solid. We've beaten him, but he's top notch. And the Predators are fighting for their life too. So there's no opportunity for the Hurricanes. We talked about whether we thought they could coast into the playoffs and rest their guys. They can't, because not only do they need the points, but their opponents are desperate for points and fighting for their lives. That's going to be another the Predators. The fact that they seem to be sellers at the trade deadline have awakened, and there's something there. They have a good chance to get in.
3 points out with a game in hand. Like they're right in the mix. They make a push.
Followed by Saturday, and that's when we hit the road. A very early game. They've got no games at all on Friday. The Good Friday, not a single contest to be had. And it's the Buffalo Sabres, a team that,
also has a shot. I said earlier, they're falling out, but they have 2 games in hand, and they're 4 points behind Florida for number 2.
So
they have.
We thought that it was a softer schedule, but when you look at it, it may be soft for the Canes, but based on the opponents and what they are fighting for,
you're going to get their best.
You're going to get their best.
Yeah.
Now we can. I was just going to say I was just going to say, sorry, Buffalo. All you want is for them to have Jekyll show up instead of Hyde, because, or maybe it's the opposite. I don't know. Like Hyde's a monster that you don't want any part of, and that's the team that is able to easily put 7 in the twine for them. And then Jekyll, more soft, is the same team that would give up 7 easy. Like when they've been blown out, they have looked terrible. So we'll hope for Jekyll on Saturday.
It's the good. The good news for the Canes is you have 8 games in April, and you could go 8-0. These are all beatable teams. These are all bottom half teams. Some of them are some of the. And the other thing is, other than New York, every other team we play is on the outside of trying to get in. So we have 6 games against non-playoff teams, even though they're fighting. If you can take care of New York and then play Ottawa, if you can take care of Ottawa, you've decreased their chance of getting in, which means maybe by the 10th, they don't have anything to play for.
Yeah.
Nashville, that's just going to be a tough one. I think Nashville's going to be, that's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, no question.
Buffalo has, I think it's Detroit and Florida between now and our game with them, which are 2 games that they can win. If they win both of those games, they are absolutely in the mix for that wild card too. Which part of me kind of wants them to get it, because I would much rather see a Boston Buffalo matchup, which I think would actually be a lot of fun to watch,
entertaining,
versus Boston Pittsburgh, which I think will just be a shellacking and way too much black and gold. Right?
Oh,
so if you can get through that week, the last 3 games, Ottawa, Detroit, Florida, we should know by then if those teams have something to play for or not. Right.
Yep.
So that last week still might be a little softer. It might be a little easier, but you got to get the wins. I mean, you're 1 point up on New Jersey. I think you still got the game in hand.
Yes, we do.
So you got to make that count, right? You want to get into the first round playing one of those 2 wildcard teams. That's the most important thing. Who you beat, how you get there is not nearly as important. So
it would feel, I gotta say, excuse me, not getting the Metro division would be alarming based on how well we played. You know what I mean? Season long, we've been playing at a great level. Like you said, with the numbers earlier, we're at a 700 clip, and to not get it would, the top spot in the Metro would be a little on the demoralizing side, you would think, because, how you play so well without the benefit and result of taking on a lesser than team. And that sounds disrespectful, but it is, right? The wild card teams are in because they played just good enough to sneak in. Everyone else is, and we have been there.
Everybody's been there.
So it's, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to these next 4 games. It's going to be exciting. We'll be able to record Easter Sunday. Yeah. You're down with that?
I am fully agnostic. The only gods I am 100% exist are hockey gods, because I've just seen too many weird things happen on the ice. Everything else I think is there's something going on, but we're not an Easter.
Yeah, and as an atheist, it's not an issue for me either. So
for folks that are, though, happy Easter.
Yeah, indeed.
Listen to us on Easter. I think that's no problem. Or you can listen to us after Easter, because we're a family-friendly podcast.
We are, absolutely. So we've covered a lot.
I do have one question for you.
Oh, fire away.
Looking at the league, San Jose looks like they might be the front runners for the Bedard sweepstakes.
Man, they stink.
Do you care where Bedard goes? Some people seem really into it. And I just saw him, was like, as long as he doesn't come to the Metro, I don't care, because the Metro is too good. If he goes anywhere out west, I'm extremely excited. I could care less which actual team gets him. But I just wondered if you had any thoughts.
A lot of thought was toward where people want to see him in Anaheim, because they're already figuring in the Bedard Zegras combination.
That'd be fun to watch.
That would be insanely fun to watch. I would love to see him in the West, just because right now the Eastern Conference is just overloaded with talent. Right now in the West, when you look at it, there's some great players there, and this is going to sound besmirching, but really it's McDavid, it's Draisaitl in the West, Robertson out of Dallas, who I think is just
Dallas, Colorado, and
Colorado, of course,
all
right?
The talent.
They've got all the talent, but so to even it out, look at Colorado and Nathan McKinnon, right? How do you say his
Mika Rantanen?
Rantanen, thank you.
Rantanen, it might be.
And then
I think it's Rantanen.
Landeskog and all of these just they're so Colorado is so talented. It'd be nice to see a guy like Bedard in the West to test them out a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to see that sort of talent out there is always nice.
And in the West, just for people keeping score, only 2 teams in the West have guaranteed their playoff spots: Vegas and Edmonton. Nobody in the Central is guaranteed a playoff spot yet. Isn't that phenomenal?
It's this is what I think everyone looks for every season, is to see the rush to the the rush to the playoffs, and how exciting it can be. You don't want it to be like I'll just throw in for baseball, where there are really only 6-7 teams in all of the league that you expect will be in the playoffs after a long season. And then you can very easily discard so many teams and stuff like that, just because they're just not going to make it.
Right.
Whereas in the West, there are a lot of teams that have an opportunity to get in and they'll be fighting. It's a dogfight to the finish, right? So I like that. I like that about hockey. I'd like to see him in the West. I mean, as much as it'd be great to see that type of generational talent in Bedard in the Eastern Conference, because you summarily get more opportunities to see him, you know what I mean, and watch him play. He's better off in the West.
Yeah, that's why we have TV. That's why I have ESPN Plus. I can watch him play
anytime.
For all the grief I kind of give McDavid as well. He's fun to watch.
Oh my gosh.
When his contract is up, please stay in the West.
It'll be interesting to see
I don't
who's
see
going
how
to step up.
I don't see how Edmonton lets him go. I think if they have to ship out Draisaitl to keep McDavid, they will.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Because I mean, at least Draisaitl seems like a decent enough guy most of the time. Although, I don't know. McDavid had some thoughts about Pride Night that I thought were pretty good, as I think that was him.
Yeah.
So
true enough.
But
it's
anyway,
wow.
That's neither here nor there for the moment. It's
wow. You know what? I knew Bedard was you know what? I'm just glad the Hurricanes aren't. Sounds terrible. I'm very glad the Hurricanes are not in the mix for the lottery.
Same.
I do not want a team like that.
It's you can be a Pittsburgh, right? You can draft a Crosby and then have phenomenal success built on the back of really a couple of guys. I mean, really, they had Fleury and Malkin and Crosby.
Yeah.
They built a team around him. But, I mean, we had 9 playoff, drought years. And we were bad, but we weren't so bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's almost worse.
It is.
I would rather not be in that position at all. But, if we're going to miss the playoff 2-3 years in a row, I would rather just see him bad. And not that anybody's intentionally tanking, but we're seeing the bottom teams are still being scrappy, and they're,
yeah.
Wins. Chicago was up on New Jersey last night. I thought they might do us a solid, and then they didn't.
And then they cratered, but yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I expected them to do too. I would be remiss. I know we're running late and we got to go. The Chicago Wolves just took it to the Ice Hogs last night. Sorry, Courtney.
Oh, wow.
Former guest of the show, is a big Ice Hawks fan. I think she's a season ticket holder. 3-0 shutout for Kochetkov last night.
Oof.
The Wolves, after all is said and done, could make the playoffs. It's still slim. It's still slim, right? Like they're in that, they're 2 spots out of wild card 2 kind of a deal, right? I think it's 5 teams from their division make it, and they're in 6th. And they're down a few points to the Ice Hogs. But if they can take the rest of their games against the Ice Hogs and finish strong, Rockford's not playing well. There is a slim chance that the Wolves go back to the playoffs this year, after having spent most of the season thinking they were probably out. And I can't help but think that guys like, Max Lajoie, Fyodor Kochetkov, Suzuki coming back,
Yeah.
Jamison Rees, Kane's prospects have a lot to do with that. So congrats to the Wolves. We'll be pulling for you. Would love to see you make the playoffs, because once you make the playoffs, anything can happen.
Yep.
That team had a lot of turnover, but there's still some leadership on that team, like Max and Kochetkov. They know what it's going to take to win a Calder. So,
yeah, you may not be understanding what Piotr is telling you when he's trying to fire you up, but the passion will be in it, and he'll be firing that team up however he says it.
Absolutely.
I don't know, but wow, another time to another Storm Cellar podcast episode complete.
Yeah,
although not entirely.
I think we're over
complete.
100 now. I feel kind of bad because I don't label them in order. I do it by season.
Right.
I think we've done 100 episodes now.
This is great.
Now I really don't know. I should probably know that.
I mean, even if it's not, it's just every time we get a chance to sit down, break down the team, break down hockey, have some fun, learn more about all of the great Caniacs and Jerks that we have. I mean, honestly, it's terrific. Anytime we can have that, let's have more of it. I certainly want to have more Caniacs joining us so we can all talk about the playoffs and the playoff success, as opposed to the other end of that, which is, the garbage bag.
I mean, this all grew out of COVID, right? This all grew out of, I mean, you and I were going to games in person anyway because
yeah.
But this all grew out of COVID and being in the house and wanting something to do and to feel connected to the fan base and the team and to get back into it. It certainly has revitalized my passion for the team and for the sport.
Absolutely.
It's expanded it too. Right now we're supposed to go to Worcester Railers game next week. The PHF,
nice.
Started watching more of that. I'll definitely be watching more of that next year. And yeah, it's I don't look forward to our first year when we're doing this and they're not playing well or they're not going to make I hope that's a long way away.
A long way away.
But we've been so fortunate that we kind of started things at the right time and just kind of got lucky with that. And thanks to everybody who listens in. I mean, we're approaching 6,000 unique listens on the podcast, dude. That's
fantastic.
That's a huge number. It's amazing to me how many people have tuned in and given us a chance. And then a repeat. I mean, we have I don't know, a couple hundred folks on Spotify who, have us, that are subscribed.
Locked in.
That's nuts to me. That's absolutely nuts that we appreciate everybody who listens to us ramble on,
Yeah. You know what we don't do though? One thing that I've noticed and in the style that we've had is we don't do a lot of self-promotion. Where you can find us, all the rest of we don't do a lot of that within the program. So why don't we try that this time? Brad,
we can do that. Sure.
Brad, where can people find our writings, our casts, you if they want to follow you on social media?
Sure.
Lay it all.
So the easiest way to get a hold of us generally is going to be on Twitter at StormCellar97. If you go to Twitter, you can click on our bio, and in our bio is our link tree, which is linktr.ee. So if you put in linktr.ee/StormCellar97, there's links to our Twitter account, Facebook account, our direct link on Apple Podcasts, our direct link on Spotify, the blog, our Zazzle store that has Storm Cellar t-shirts if you want a t-shirt or a hat. But that's the easiest way to find us. You can also email us at stormcellar97@gmail.com. That will go to me. You can message us on Facebook, facebook.com/StormCellar97. Any of those ways will get a hold of us. If you have questions for the show, if you want to, come on and you want to be a guest, let us know.
We're happy to have you in.
Yeah. If you listen to us on whatever app, Spotify, iTunes, whatever it happens to be, we'd love if you give us 5 stars, write a review. It certainly helps other people find us. Sometimes I post when we get funny. I subscribe to a digest for podcasts that tells us where we rank in terms of podcasts, and I get funny ones like we're the number 7 hockey podcast in Northern Ireland, and I just think they're funny. So if I find a funny one or something, I put it out there. We do pretty well in Finland, which I think is kind of a hockey crazy country. So it's really cool that we're getting folks like that.
That's
we have
great.
Somebody who listens to us from the United Arab Emirates, who has said, at some point he's going to come on the show. We got to work the timing out. We have listeners in New Zealand and Australia, which is cool.
That's awesome.
It's fun. And going into the off season, we have a few ideas. We're certainly going to want to talk to more Caniacs going forward.
Yep.
The Whale Tail has not been forgotten, just delayed. So that will still be coming out at some point, which will be a lot of fun. That's going to end up being an off-season project. It's just too ambitious for work and life and school and hockey and all the other things that are going on.
Lots to juggle.
Yeah, lots to juggle. So, but everybody who listens, we think is awesome. And then in terms of self-promotion, you know what we still don't do, Ray? We don't do advertisements. And other podcasts too, more power to them. You're not ever going to be listening to us and get interrupted by a commercial. So I'm really happy at that fact. We don't do this for money. I've often said, we're probably $50 in the hole on the podcast. That's not going to change anytime soon. Up or down, which is good. I mean, everything's paid for unless, I need a new shirt, and then, I'll be, $20 in the hole. So we just do it, for the fun. I think it's too late for a career change for me, unless if Mike Solarte, if you're listening and you need a well-paid intern maybe, or you need a hockey guy, I'm just saying, like, I could be talked into making a career change at this stage of my life.
And
like
Mike,
I would do a good job.
and Mike, you could come to me too, because the multiple different aspects that I have it's not just hockey, it's college basketball too, which, by the way, woohoo, I won it.
Did you?
I got it all.
Did you in Mike's pool? Because we were both in that, and I saw you were number 1.
I've won Mike's pool. There's no way that I can lose it. So I won that one. I'm feeling great. Thank you, UConn. Thank you, UConn. You're the reason that I'm through. So it worked out well.
Fun fact: I won my office pool at work.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Even though in my office pool at work, I always pick NC State to go to the championship and win.
And you still won it.
And as we all know, NC State did not do well.
No.
I still won it by 8 points.
Wow. Good for you. See, so Mike, give us a ring.
Yeah. If you need talent, man,
we're here.
We're here. I'm just saying, if you need talent, if any of the Canes folks, Mike Foreman, if you're listening,
that's right.
Mike Maniscalco Trip, if you need Gopher, hey, as long as I can afford to get a place in North Carolina again, I'm in.
And I understand. I don't know if I'd be able to move anytime soon, but when you guys swing through Calgary, look me up. I'll take care of things for you.
There you go.
To be sure.
I'm going to make that trip one day. I'm coming up to see you one day.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. You'll love it. You'll absolutely love it. I mean, we'll have a good time. What you need to do is come up for a game.
That would
be. I mean, and that would be outstanding.
Maybe Carolina will play Edmonton in the finals this year. Not that I have tickets, but I could be in the city. I could, the Edmonton fans did such a great job coming down in 2006. I could.
No question.
There'll be a sports bar up there, I'm sure, that might have the game on, right?
Exactly. Well, it might. Yeah, you could probably fall into one. There's so many of them.
I don't know enough about Edmonton and Calgary in terms of the fans. I assume I could wear Hurricane stuff there and I'd get some ribbon like I would expect anywhere, but it wouldn't be a big deal. But then I look at Vancouver, who ESPN's 30 for 30 is doing a thing on the Vancouver riots when they,
yes,
that worries me a little bit. I'm like, man, that's Vancouver fans. I assume Edmonton fans are not. The ones that we met were so nice. I can't imagine that. But if I come up there, I'm definitely bringing nothing but Canes gear to wear.
Yeah, it's there's the riots and stuff like that. Difficult, right? Like it just I couldn't believe the Vancouver one.
I mean, for such a polite society in general, it's fascinating. How did that?
Yeah, hockey's a different animal up here. Hockey is just a different creature altogether. But yeah, no, that would be outstanding. We'll have to make that happen. That's going to do it. We've done everything. I guess there is just one thing left we need to do, though.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.